All right, Shabbos Pashas Vayeitzei, Yudkis Tevshin Chavov. So Vayeitzei Yaakov in Beersheva, Vayelech Haran. So Yaakov, you know the story, leaves Beersheva and goes to Haran, to his uncle, to avoid encounter with Esav. On Messiah, the very pasuk concludes, V'shavti, he makes a neder, Yaakov, and says, V'shavti b'shalom al beis avi, and I'll return. And if I'll return in peace to my father's house, then this stone that I've made, a monument, will be a house of God. All that he will give me, I will give a tithe to you. And there's known many shilas on this parsha. That's quite interesting that this is singled out with many diyukim from the Rabbi. Heichel, beginning with Admo Azoken, starting with the Alter Rebbe, Admo Emtzoy in the middle Rebbe. Umehem, and amongst the questions are as follows. The tzorich l'hovi, we have to understand, Shaychis on yon mish b'psukim elu. These are two psukim here. So what's the connection between the psukim, namely in brackets? The question is, Vayeitzei Yaakov Beersheva, Vayelech Haran, that Yaakov leaves and goes to Haran, and the conclusion, the next pasuk, V'shavti b'shalom, and I return in peace, Ve'evan azois, and this stone becomes a Beis Elikim. So what's the shaila? What's the question? Dehine, if I'm reading the question right, it's as follows. Mashakos Vayeitzei Yaakov Beersheva Vayelech Haran. This that Yaakov leaves, Beersheva, and goes to Haran, who loyalek ascholas aparshakol. It's a grand statement that sets the stage, and for the story to unfold, going to Lavan, it's going to Haran. So it's not only the beginning of this parsha, Elagam ascholas ingin proti zeh. From the context, it also is the beginning of the detail here. These two psukim, shesiyumayu, that the conclusion is, V'shavti b'shalom, I'll return in peace, Ve'evan azois, and this stone, and so on. So what's the shayla? Tzarich lov my shaychus. What's the connection? That's cholas ha'inyan. The beginning of Yaakov, Yaakov Beersheva, Yelech Haran. So it seems the shayla is that's an inyan klali. It's an inyan klali. And then it comes down to this, the sima inyan, this detail of this mizbeach. What's the connection? The V'shavti b'shalom, and then Ve'evan azois. And that seems to be the shayla. Again, Vayeitzei Yaakov is not only an opening statement that sets the scene for what's going to follow for the next parshas, but it is the opening of these psukim that concludes with V'shavti b'shalom and inyan proti and a mizbeach. What's the connection? It seems like, again, the grand, general picture with this detail. That seems to be the shayla. Yeah? Gam tzarich lahavir in mashakos of Evan azois here Beis Elikim. This stone will be a house of God. Eich tia Evan. How does a stone become b'madrege gdela kol kach, elevated so lofty? Shetia nikras Beis Elikim. It's called the house of God. Of course, we are all familiar in general with this theme. Why? The Maimon of V'shavti b'shalom is what the Rebbe gave out his own personal Maimon after the ha'teva's conclusion. It was the first Maimon of the Rebbe that he gave out of his own Maimon. So he deals with that there barichas as well. For the Kudas Abir Bozeh, the Nakuda is the Hine Yaakov, B'chinas Yud Eikev. So Yaakov is Yud Eikev. What's Yud Eikev? Yud is Shamshachas B'chinas Chachmi Ilah, the drawing down of Chachmi Ilah. B'chinas Yud, that's represented by Yud. Yud's in the Kuda, like Chachmas in the Kuda. L'mat all the way down. Gam B'chinas Akvayim, all the way down to the heels. I'm going to ask you, friends, because we encounter this, and it's ABC, Aleph Beis of Chassidus. So the McGill student is sitting here, and Panyevich Talmud. Just tell him in a few sentences why Chacham is Yud. What's the connection? First of all, as far as he's concerned, Chacham means wise or wisdom. Like, what in heaven's name got to do with Yud? Completely foreign to this. We're just used to it the whole time. I was asking you, why is Chacham a Yud? Pashut, again, someone who has no background, go. Using pure English, not hiding behind any Hebrew word. That's how we learn here, yeah? Oh, I thought you were going to answer. You're looking at me.
It's the flash of intellect.
Huh?
The flash. First flash.
He doesn't know what you're talking about. Again, it was McGill student sitting here, and Mira Talmud, the Ponyevich Bocher, the Elohim and Goinim. Doesn't understand what you're saying. What?
The flash of an idea.
Who doesn't know what we're talking about? God here, you flash of an idea. What's it got to do with God?
The method of creation, how something comes to be.
Huh?
How things come to be.
Still doesn't understand why it's a Yud.
Flash.
God has a flash. Yes. You're not saying wrong. It's a challenge. That's the problem. Not a problem. It's a challenge. You learn, and we just start to words that we no longer think about, maybe never did properly, just get set in stone and we move on. But what do these things mean? Every time you learn a mind about it, there should be everything like reset. What does this mean? What does it mean? What are we learning? Kaporim, no? A few words. Zagep is somebody. Didn't say wrong. Nothing he said was wrong. It's all true. No. Why is Chochma the first darge of a likus, basically? It's the first darge of a likus. It's the beginning of Ishtarshalus. Huh? Again, what does this mean? Is it we just throwing words again? Pure English. Speak in Yiddish if you want. Anybody want to venture? No, not me. No way. Not at this hour in the morning. The Nakud of Chachma means it's the first darge. Chachma, want to hear the answer, folks? Yeah. Chachma is in the Kudah, a point. It's the first level of the divine revelation where God is revealing himself outside of self to otherness. But the otherness is obviously that first revelation totally nullified to him. What's revealed there is Chochmah says God's the only reality, but somebody's saying it. Till then, no one's saying it. It's just God. So Chochmah is the nekuda where there's, on some level, and the potential for otherness being very other all the way down the system. That says, but Chochmah says, the first darga of expression, talking about God, says that God's the only reality. That's what Chochmah says. Bittul, that's the nekud. Okay. That's Chochmah Ilah.
That's not
Huh?
That's not in Chatzani's Kesser?
No, Kesser's already bound up. We can go to Dargis now. That's Hadichas Gedoyle. There's many levels before Chochmah, but away from Klali, that's the Inyan. The Alter Rebbe says the Neshama comes from the Eibishter. What is it? The Eibishter is Chochmah. Chochmah Datzilus. Like he says in the Haggadah, Perek Lamed in Tanya, the Chochmah Datzilus says, Hu levadei hu, he alone is the reality, and there's nothing other than him. So is Mamshech, what's Yaakov? So Yaakov is this Meiredik Inyan that is Mamshech the Yud, Lamata Mata to the heels. So therefore, heels meaning Lamata. So Yaakov, this is Yaakov, that's his Inyan. Where is he going from Beersheva to Choron? Shebchinas Yaakov, who are Mamshech Bechinas Beersheva, the well of the seven, that means many Inyonim, means the seven Midas, it means also refers to the oath, that the Shavuot that the Neshama makes before it comes down. Shebechinas Nailis B'Yosef the Beersheva, this well of divine waters he draws down, which is very lofty, he draws down all the way down, all the way low, reflecting his very name. He goes from Beersheva to B'chinas Choron, The neshama comes down all the way to Choron. The word was called Choron because Charei Nafshel Olam, God's anger was there because it was a angry place. People are angry at each other, so God was angry with everyone. So that's Yaakov. Now this is also what the pasuk says. Tilim, Tzaveh Yeshuas Yaakov. Simple meaning, command the salvations of Yaakov. God save us. What the Nekuda Yeshua is, the word Yeshua, so the Shoirish is Shin Ayin 370, or a larger, like a bigger Shoirish is Shin Ayin Hey. Sometimes the Shoirish has 2 letters, sometimes 3 letters in an expanded form. So this is the 375 Nehoirin Eloin, supernal lights. That's another way, another darge of Shazer Reishis, Ishtalshus, the beginning of Ishtalshalos, Bechinas Chachma. Or even Lemaila Ishtalshalos, Bemes, the union of Yeshua goes even higher than Ishtalshalos. That's Bechinas HaKeser, Atik and Narich. Okay, this is all addressed and explained elsewhere. So that's one meaning, it's the darge. What darge is it? Chachma Ilah, or even higher than Ishtalshalos Keser. The connection to the number 375, I don't remember. I'm trying to find out. Pigam Yeshua is a Meloshin Shah. Yeshua also means to turn. Tahaino, meaning Hifne, Aker, or Hapoine, Aker, to turn. Shinyin ha'afona harishoina, that's the first turn. Shalatz Musa Yizborech of God's essence, liyas yiridas vamshochas eri lamata mata. Again, otherness. The first turn is the notion of otherness, revelation. So we always point out, when you talk about the word revelation, Giloi, you're already saying a radical change from Atzmos. There is otherness wherein he is revealed. If you say revelation, you're already saying something other that you're revealing to. And that is the inyan of Shah, the highest darga of Oir, where God is giving rise to turn to. Turn to what? To an other. There, it's the most sublime level. It's the notion of otherness, the potential of otherness. But still, already the inyan of Oir means Gilui, revelation, outside of self, in quotations, that word outside. So now what's the pasuk saying? Yaakov. Command the salvations of Yaakov. Command, in other words, save us. Tzaveh meloshin tzavtza v'chibur. Not so long ago, this was one of the main songs in the Polish world. Tzaveh Yeshuas Yaakov. Now there's a bigger selection, but that was one of the main nigunim. Tzaveh meloshin tzavtza v'chibur. So we all know that tzaveh means to connect. V'hainu sheYaakov hu ha'machaber. So tzaveh Yeshuas Yaakov. Yaakov is the connector. Umamshich b'chinas ha'Yeshua lamata. He draws down the shin ayin or shin ayin hey nohidin iloin all the way down. So the word Yaakov, the pasuk Vayeitzei Yaakov Beersheva, and the pasuk tzaveh Yeshuas Yaakov overall are conveying the same theme. The Amshach of the highest dargas, higher than Ishtalshalos, all the way down, and that's affected through Yaakov. Why is he going there? And the purpose of going from Beersheva, as he said, described before, Bechinas Nailis is a very lofty level. To go to Choron, the angry place of the world, what I said before was not facetious. Because people are angry with each other means it's a place of division. Why are you angry? We're angry because why someone is angry, kill Eved David Zara. It's a very harsh statement. Because if you get angry, it means that you're denying that God runs this. You're denying God runs this, that it's meant to be for your good. That's what anger means. That's Avodah Zarah. Yeah, there's a God, but not here, not now, and doesn't govern, not my life. So because people are angry with each other, so therefore, midah cannot get midah, so it elicits Hashem's Gevuras in response. Today, Lasik, so why is he there in this angry, fragmented conflict? Today, Lasik, Ba'avidas HaBerurim, to elevate the spark, Shadeize Nase Ilui Godel B'Yoseh. So to turn that place, the place of harmony, then that's a very great virtue. And that's the meaning. He's giving the answer overall to be explained in the course of the Maimah. That's the meaning why Taka, the Vayeitzei Ya'akov to Vayeitzei, which is a huge statement that sets the scene for the entire journey of Yaakov for the next 22 years and beyond. It comes down to a stone. Evan Azois said something, yeah, because that's the Evan Azois, Beis Halikim, that's a bitter and the tzutzim that he makes into a house of God. That's very clearly the answer to the question. Clear? Yeah. Beis. We even to back to Masha Koso, we'll understand this by first prefacing what the pasuk says. Kois Yeshuis Eso, a cup of salvation I lift up. The Koisu, behind the beginners, Hakeli, Lekablas, Amshachas, beginners, Yeshua. So we're interested in this pasuk because it talks about Yeshuas and it talks about Kois being Makabalit. So the Kois, the cup, receives the Yeshuas. So why is it being lifted? I have to lift up the cup of Yeshua. I have to receive it, not lift it. Answer. In order that the Makabal, as he'll explain in a moment, it's us obvious, they should receive the Yeshua, there has to be we have to be lifted. It's a little bit different in the Pasha de Pshat. The Pasha de Pshat is you have the cup of Yeshua already and you're lifting it up. The Pnimius, it's in order to get the Kais Yeshua, there has to be the Avodah of Esa before that. What does it mean to lift up? In order to receive the Yeshua's Vinyan Bazek, as explained in the Maimah of the Alter Rebbe of the Mittel Rebbe, the Balagul of Yud Kislev. He explains the goblet of the silver goblet of Yosef, as opposed to a cup. It's not a Kois HaKesef, it's Gvi HaKesef. So he explains the Mittel Rebbe, Sheyesh Hefesh Ben Kois Yeshuos, it's a difference between the cup of salvation, which needs to be lifted, the Gviyas HaKesef, to the silver goblet, it doesn't have to be lifted. Why? He explains the Hine, Kois Yeshuos, who said that pasuk? Esa. Omar David HaMelech, he said that about himself, I will lift al bechinosai, his level, shebechinas malchus datzilus. David HaMelech is malchus datzilus, and what's malchus datzilus? The kivin shiragleha yerdis mav. It's a pasuk in Mishlei. It's talking about be wary of this particular woman. That woman is malchus, for her feet descend to death. The seductive woman. So that's an allusion to, not an allusion to the Pnimius, the pasuk is talking about Malchus of Atzilus, and Malchus descends and is the source of Biyah, because Malchus is Elam, because Malchus is the word of God, and so words can be misconstrued. You said something, but the other person got something else. Why? Because the word conceals. And you have to decode a word to understand its meaning. So Malchus is the word of God, and it gives rise to, therefore, Biyah, which has this sense of separation all the way down to Ilam Hazeh. God creates through words because he conceals himself in the process of creation, just like the idea is concealed in the world. The word has got to be decoded by the listener. If you don't understand the language, you don't get anything. I mean, if you do, again, words can be misconstrued. And moreover, you can say words you don't mean. You can lie. The Ibish doesn't lie, but God forbid, but he conceals himself. So that's the, David HaMelech, he's Malchus Datzilus, and therefore he says, so therefore there has to be an elevation, needs to be decoded, elevated, in order to receive the Yeshuos, Kois Yeshuos. Okay, so understand that why Malchus needs to be lifted, Because simple language, this is the Amshachal, the Mata, and the Mata has to be a Keli, has to discover and find God and open up in order to receive the Yeshua's God's salvation. We're not naturally a Keli, we need birur, we need refinement. The word has to be decoded. Clear? Omnom, that's the of David the Melech, he's Malchus Datzilus. Omnom, because Yosef, but Yosef's cup, which the pastor calls a Gviya, Leitzorech Lisi in Agbod doesn't have to be lifted. Why? Vayin Lefisha Yosef, because Yisoid Datzilus. Yosef is Yisoid, that's his Madrege, Tzadik Elian as opposed to Benyamin, the Tzadik Tachten, Sheboy Val Yoda, the Mishachim, Kol Ashboiz B'Malchus. He's already the world, he's in Kedusha. And it's through him is funneled, Yisoid, is the masculine Malchus, the feminine. Through him is funneled, the Amshachas to Malchus. He's the great provider. Yosef is the provider for all of the people. Interestingly, he adds here as follows: so if he is being mashpia, so he gets down to that world too, he also needs to be have to have the avoid of Esau. Answer is no. For the amitis in a mashpia, but the true mashpia is on the one hand he does get down to that person's world, otherwise not a mashpia. But nonetheless, this is the inyan. He's in that person's world, but he doesn't descend from his level. Al madreges a makabel to the level of the makabel kedei lashpia lashba in order to give the ashba. Ela mashpia lo yashba b'yosef b'mkoimei. His place he brings there. That's why he inspires. The kivin she'ein bein shel yerida. So since he's the emes mashpia, that's Yosef. And there's no descent, he remains. The Chosid, Yisoid Atzilus, L'chein letzorech liyes boy in shel Agba, that doesn't need any lifting in the Agba to receive that Ashba. The Yosef Gvoya Misad Atzma, he is already elevated. So it's a Ashba, it's an Ashba to the Mekabel, he's Mashpia to Atzilus. He's mashpia to Atzilus such that he brings his darga there, and therefore there's no need for elevation. The word gviya, well, with a hey would mean tall. That's the inyan here. Shepirusha kois gavoy means a tall cup, lofty. Rashi says take. There in Pashas Mikei, it's kois oruch. It's a long cup. There's a word for the chalice, right? Long, narrow, not narrow, but high cup. Okay, so let's get the flow. Yaakov's inyan is it's a young Bershavi Lecharona. He's connects and mamshich the highest levels to the lowest levels. In order to do what Avidas Abirurim. To understand that, explains Kois Ishus Esa, which is lifting up the cup, and the contrast between Kois, which is Malchut Atzilus, that's Avidas Abirurim. That's David HaMelech, and Yosef the Mashpia, where, in other words, when to translate this simply, when the Mashpia is engaged in his Avodah, the Makabal doesn't have to lift himself up. It's kind of in a way the Mashpia gets into his world, but invites him into his world, lifts him. There's no Avodah without the Makabal. Mashenke, Malchus is engaging is the world out there and elevating the sparks. That's an Avodah Gdoila. Or in other words, Yosef is Melamayla Lamata and David HaMelech is Melamata Lamayla. When you sit there with the Mashpia, the Rebbe is being Mashpia, they don't have to elevate yourself. You're brought into that world. It's Gil Melamayla Lamata to you. Malchus, David HaMelech is out there in the world. That's Avodah that needs Hagbor. We're going to lift ourselves constantly. Extract ourselves. We'll make sure we're not drawn in to begin with. So let's continue. Yeah, we're clear? Yeah. We're going to connect this with something explained in Torah Oir. Ksaviat Kodesh Admo Nishmas Ha'eden Ba'atzmo, and there's a note there of the Rebbe Rashab, Binyan HaKruvim, and explaining the Inyan of Kruvim. The Kruvim, of course, were what? Were the Kruvim, the cherubim, the angelic, one opinion, or boy and girl images beaten out of a solid piece of tefachai of gold. This is the kapoides, the cover of the Oren. So the Pasuk described the Kruvim like this, that the Kruvim should be beaten out of this piece of gold from one edge of the slab to the other. That's the Lashon HaPasuk, Miktzei. Shekruv echad miktzei mizeh, and kruv echad miktzei mizeh. So what are the two edges? So explains to the Barashab, and then the Alter Rebbe, the miktzei mizeh, one edge, the first edge is ktzei oirin sof shebezor. The edge, the final level kavayochel of oirin sof, which is invested in zor. In other words, it's the final level of the highest revelation, the edge of the highest revelation. Clear? K'tzei oirin sof in zor, which is invested in what zor? Anybody quickly? Huh? Gentlemen? Sorry?
Ask the new guy.
No? And what's that ampin? Small faces. What is that? Why are they called small faces?
The image of it, the way it's positioned in the makeup of the midah.
So why small? Anpin, pnimius. Yeah, I understand. Why small?
As opposed
As opposed
to
to Arich Anpin. It's a small revelation as opposed to a great revelation, which is in Kesed. But the point is that Zoh, everything is relative. Malchus belongs to Mekabel, creation. But Eifon Kloli, Zoh belongs to Likus. That's why Eirin Sof ends in Zoh. It's still the world of Elikos, of Gilui, on the highest levels. That's one edge. Clear? V'kruv echad miksei mizeh. And what's the other edge? Hu Malchus, that's already Malchus, we're turning the other way. Shu Mokeh de Biyad, the source of Biyad. That's what the Alter Rebbe Rashab explains. That's the two edges of the Kruvim. The two extremes. So, but the first one is the end of Eirin Sof, and the second is Malchus, now the source of Biyah creation. Mizeh move, and therefore it's understood. We're quoting this here because Yosef is Yisoid and David is Malchus. And we just talked here that what's invested in Yisoid, the edge, as it were, the final Gilui Vayeitzei Sof, it still justifies being called infinite relative to Malchus, to Biyah. Zod Atzilus is relatively bligvul. And this is the Madreg of who? Of Yosef. So now we're understanding clearer the difference between the level of Yisoid, B'chinas Yosef, B'chinas Malchus, B'chinas Shel David. Because externally, it's part of Atzilus, and not such a great gulf between the two. We see from this word, there is infinite, finite, to use beaten up terms. The level of Yisoid, on the one hand, it's the last level of Zohar, just one level removed from Malchus. So how great could the gulf be? The answer is profound indeed. We're seeing from this source now that we just brought, that in Zohar is invested the edge or the final revelation of Ein Sof. That means, again, it's the final level where we can still say, use the term infinite. It's still relatively infinite. Zohar is relatively bligvul compared to Malchus. It still belongs to the world of Atzilus, which is Yesterday's Hayom, right? And we throw the word Atzilus out like Al-Rebbe couldn't say it and couldn't write it. He used to say Oibim in Yiddish, and when he wrote it, Al Tzadik, stroke, couldn't finish the word. Because when he wrote the Inyonim, he was mamshich and connecting, and that was Atzilus, believable, God's pure revelation, relatively speaking. Shekol HaDarga Shabai, all the levels of the Ein Sof, this is the edge of it, the final one. But all of them share one thing in common. Dingen of believable. Reshisa, its middle, its beginning, its middle, Tachtisa, in its lowest level, the Ein Sof, Ein Sof are all infinite. That needs to be understood. I mean, infinite means surely no levels, beginning, middle, and end. But there's what you keep underscoring here. There's relative infinite. Each level is believable. That also needs to be understood. But basically, it means that each level expresses and says, this is how God is expressing himself. So it's a believable expression. Whether it's gracious, middle, or end, that's not lost. It's transparent and revealed in every level of the Ein Sof, even though there are levels. It's God's infinite revelation. It's infinite Chachma, Bina, all the way down to Zoh. The big fundamental shift is Malchus already, where there is real hardcore, somebody else receiving this in the Kabbalah. Again, like a word. A word is just understood by the person. You have an idea in your head. It's revealed in your head. And you have even letters. The moment you put it in the word, you've utterly concealed it. The person listening if he doesn't know English, doesn't know how to decode, just getting a sound of the 5 collisions of the 5 organs of speech. It's total hell. In there, if he knows the language, hopefully he'll get what you're saying. Hopefully. But it's a tachlis ahela. If it flows almost fluidly from thought to speech, but it's a radical different world. In my thoughts, I'm Begoli. In my words, I'm not. I could lie. I could say somebody else's words. You can't lie in your own head. Although we can lie to ourselves. We're so creative, we can lie to ourselves. But in theory, really, you can't lie to yourself. And the previous, you don't. You're just playing with yourself. But in your words, you can certainly lie. That's why they're called levushim, garments. Now, the word for levush is a beged. A beged means to deceive. You can wear clothing. It's not you. Put on policeman's clothing. I'm a policeman. Not a policeman. Or a sailor. That's the joke, right? Jackie Mason, you don't know the story? Okay. Let's continue. So, and we understand how the chiluk here, that Zoh is still bound up with the Ein Sof. And therefore, Zoh belongs to the upper. It's only one level removed from Malchus, but it's a different world. Malchus, the source of Bia. Again, it's like the spoken word. That's what Malchus is. Malchus Peh. And that's already a shift from Elyon to Tachten, from the divine to us. So now translating this back to the cups. The chalice, the silver chalice goblet to the silver cup, to the cup of salvation. We got to lift up the Kais Yeshua. He's the Makabel. He's in a world of separation and division. He's already locked in himself. The starting point of Bia is me. Then there's I believe in God. But Zoh, Atzilus, Eibishter, that's the starting point. Same general idea. So since the Yosem, since it's the lowest level, it's to be lifted. To discover that there's a God. But not in that world. There's no need to elevate and lift. It's in that world where it's obvious God's revealed. Clear? So we've made it sharper and the gulf far more profound between the 2 cups of David and Yosef. Furthermore, Vayeitzei, yeah? Okay, we'll finish this paragraph. Another thing, not only is there no need to elevate, on the contrary. What's the contrary? Yosef instructed his son Menashe to put the silver cup, toss him before amtachas hakoton, take this cup and my cup, the goblet, the chalice, and put it in the baggage, the satchel of the smallest one, meaning nimshach lamata dafke. And he's nimshach lamata, uncompromised. Again, in the world of the mashpia, the hashpah comes. There's no need to elevate you. It comes to you, touching you in a very deep way. And there's no need for the avodah to lift up the mata. The hashpah comes. Right, friends, we'll continue tomorrow. Be'ezrat Hashem.